which is okay, which is our learning circle, so to put, organized by the Nigeria Power Platform User Group. And we started this last week. For this period, we had the first session last week, wherein we had a bit of introduction into what we do in the community and what we hope to achieve with this set of classes in the business studies. And our facilitators, they started introduction to the whole case study, and we started the build of the application last week. So today we would go deeper into the conversation, and we're hoping that we stick by the 1 hour allotted time for these sessions. So we are hoping that every single person that's interested in this, we try as much as possible to join in very much early. This would run for the next maybe 5 weekends or less, depending on how quickly we are able to close out on the case studies that we have at hand. At this point, I would want to hand over to our facilitators, Ibrahim Malautan, and we should take it over from here. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Over to you, Ibrahim.
Hello everyone, I'm Alauta Ibrahim. So I'll be going right into it. I'll share my screen right away. Okay. Okay, please confirm you can see my screen. I have a blank app open with a black screen.
Yes, I can.
Okay, so I'll dive right into it. So we were able to create our databases last week, and we are about to start developing the application, but we had run out of time, so we had to postpone that. So I would just continue that this week. So basically, we have a layout. We have a layout which we have on a Figma. We have a Figma design which would be following largely. So we might have a little bit of variation in some aspects, but largely we'll be following that Figma design, to create the application. So I shared the link earlier, and this is also the design again. So basically, we'll be following this layout to design the application. So you can refer to that when you are doing yours. So now, first thing I'm going to do is basically when you are building an application, your app needs to interact with data. So I'm going to go ahead and add the data sources that we'll be using in this application. I'm going to add them to the application, and let us also take into consideration the fact that we are building this app as part of a solution. So when you are building an application as part of a solution and leveraging SharePoint as your data source, there are specific ways in which you add the data sources to your application. And the essence of this is so that when you want to move your solution from one environment to the other, right, you are able to do that seamlessly and also change your data sources to the target environment data source. You understand? So you most likely change sites. As you're developing on dev, you have a dev SharePoint site, and even you're moving to production, you have a production SharePoint site. So you have an easy transition there. So let me get right into it. I'm going to add data. Click on add data. Then I'm going to open connectors, or you can easily search for SharePoint up here. Yeah. So let me just type it here sometimes. Yeah. So SharePoint, click on this. Then it's going to ask you to, select the connection. Click on, you see, this is my, for my account. I'll click on this. Then it opens a list of SharePoint sites that my account has access to, but I wouldn't select any of these because we are building this as part of a solution. I'll click on advanced, select my environment variable, this environment variable that I created for the site, which if you were part of the last class, you can always refer back to my last class. So we created an environment variable for the site. So you select that. Yeah, and when you select that, then you see the lists that are available within that site, the SharePoint list that we have. But take note, you also have to click on advanced again, which will bring the list that we already added as environment variables within our solution. So we have the 4 lists, so just tick that. So always take notes when you are adding your tables and make sure that you are adding the environment variables rather than adding the tables directly, so that you will not have issues when you are doing a migration. So I'll connect now. Okay, so we have our 4 databases right here within the application, but there's also one more data source that I would like to add to this application, and that is the Office 365 users. So some of us who have seen this or used this before, and some of us have not. So I'm just going to over this and let us see the explanation given here. So we have Office 365 user connection provider lets you access user profiles within your organization. So with this connection, you can easily access information about users within the organization, including the currently logged in user, and which is something that we want to do in this app. So as you're logging in, I want to grab information about you as a user so that we can use that to do some validations and the likes within the app. So I'm going to click on this and go ahead and add it to the app. So that's loading. Yeah. Okay, just a minute. So yeah, so we have this. I'm going to go ahead and do a quick save. So yes, so now we've added our databases, and also we added this Office 365 users connector. So the next thing I want to do right now is every time I open my app, first I want my app to grab my information as a logged in user. So I'll go to the onStart property, right? And I am going to do something, right? I am going to grab the information of the user that just logged into the application. Then I'm going to save it in the variable. And the essence of this is because I'm going to have to reference the information of the user in several parts of the app later on, to do some validations. And I don't want to have to make a call to grab that information every time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save that information in a variable so that I can just reference that every time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to initialize a variable. So we have variables in Power Apps. Variables are just like containers for information. So you store information in the variable. It can be a record. It can be a collection of records, which is an array. It can be just some text or just some value. It can anything you can save in a variable. So I'm going to set, and this is how we save a variable, right? You call the set function. And also, let me just bring to our attention that there are different kinds of variables. But for now, we'll be using this set, and set, we use set to declare global variables. So when we say global variables, these are variables that you can call from any string within your app. So irrespective of where you are within your app, you have access to the data within that variable. So I'm going to call this current user. So basically, this is a variable to store the information of the current user. So I'm going to call, then I'm going to query this, I'm going to call this connection to collect the information of the logged in user. So I'm going to say Office 3, and this is how we do that. So Office 365 users, but what do I want? I want to get the profile information of the current user. So I'll come down here, we have my profile. So, and we also have my profile V2. So, this is normal logic. V2 will always be better than the ordinary my profile. So this is like a more advanced, more finessed connection. So I'm going to use this. Then I'm going to have to. So this is just some syntax that you have to get used to along the way. Okay. So basically, yeah, you have to introduce a open and close bracket in front of it, to actually call that function. Then I'm going to close it. So if you look at this formula, you can see that in the beginning, we added the name of a function called set. So in order to set this variable, and when we added set, we added the open bracket. So we have to close that bracket back. So I'm going to do a close bracket here. Yeah, and our function is fine. So every time you log into this app, this function will collect your information into this variable. Yeah. So the next thing I want to do now is on starting the app, we have a table in our data source that we created last week, if you recall. So we created a row configuration database, right? And open this. Created a row configuration database, right? So inside this row configuration database, I'm going to go ahead and create a record for myself. So basically, this is a database that holds information of the users within the organization. This is what determines what kind of access you have on the application, right? So I'm going to go ahead and create a record for myself. I'm going to call this. So now I'm just going to input my thing here. So row, I'm going to say I am an admin. The order limit, I'll pick 40. The department, I'm going to pick finance, that's fine. So now I'm going to save this. Yeah. So now, the first thing I want to do when I come into this app is that I want to come down to this table, right? Then I want to come and grab my information from this table so that I know what access, the application knows what access to give me as a user on the app. Do I have admin rights or do I have staff rights? Then, so basically, how do we do this? I'm going to go back to the app. Right after this formula, I'm going to introduce a semicolon. Then I'll move down to the next line just for, neat code. I can as well write it in front of it. So then I'm going to set a different variable. So this variable now is going to hold my information that is being retrieved from this table. I'm going to come to this table, search for where the user equals me, then grab the information of that row and return it back to my app. So I'm going to say set current user role. So now I'm setting the role of the user. So I'm collecting it inside this information. I'll collect the role of the user inside this variable, right? So now, how do we get that information from that table? So I'm going to introduce a function called lookup. So what does lookup do? Basically, lookup goes into a table with a particular query. If I say query, I mean it's like an instruction. I'm saying go to the table, then get me this information, right? But the peculiarity to lookup is that there can be several items within the table that match the description, the instruction I've given to the lookup. But because it is a lookup, it will only pick the first item that matches the instruction given to it. So if I find 5 items that match what I've been asked to fetch, I will fetch only the first one. So that's just what lookup does. So we also have filter. Filter does the same thing as lookup, but filter will go ahead and grab all 5 items that match the instruction given to it. So basically, now let's get into it. So I'm saying lookup in which table? Lookup in my order menu database. So order menu database, go to my order menu. Oh, sorry. We are supposed to look up in a configuration database. So that's where the information is stored, row configuration. So look up in the row configuration database, right? And grab what? Where the user. So now, if we recall, when we were creating this table last week, we added the user role, and the user role is what? Is a person field. So the user role is a person field, right? So what that implies is that it contains information about users within your organization. And when a user has different information, as a user, you have your email, you have your display name, you have your address, you have a lot of information, right? So if you want to filter by the user column, you have to specify what information about the user do you want to filter by. So I would say I want you to search for where the user email, right, is equal to the email of the current user that we got over here. So it's equal to current user. And in the same vein, just like we have for the user, current user, so we retrieved the information of the current logged in user from this Office 365 connector. So this also will retrieve a whole lot of information about me as a user. It's also going to get my email, picture, a whole lot of things. So now I have to tell this code that I want you to filter for where the email of the user in this list is equal to the email of the current user, which I have gotten here. So I'll say current user dot, I think this says mail. Yes. So now, what do I need? When I retrieve this, what I really need from the whole information is what is role. But along the line, in the process of development, this other information will also come to be needed. So I will just close this now. So basically, go to my database and grab this whole record for me and save it in this variable. Okay, so I'm going to, so now I've closed this function. So also ensure that you close the other function that you have here. So you have set first with the open bracket. I have to close that as well. So now our formula is fine. Yeah, our formula is fine. So now if I were to run this code, now the way you can run your onStart is to come down to your app element here, click on the three dots and run. You have run onStart at the bottom here. Click on that. So this is how you test if your code is working or not. So now you can highlight the variables. You can see now when I highlight the variables, I can see the details of my details as a user. So I can see this is the company name, country, my display name, given name. Yeah. So for the current user role, I'll highlight that as well. And now we can see the information. So role is a choice column. So that's why it comes as record. Let me see what I can show you here. Yeah, so from this we can actually confirm that our formula actually works. So now that is sorted, let us move into the app proper and start development. But before we start development, we are going to be needing some things as we move along. So we are going to need a color scheme that we are going to be using in the process of developing this application. So basically, I'm going to create a kind of like a pack of crayons. And let me use that term. So it's going to be like a pack of crayons from which we can always tell our app that, okay, go to this pack and bring this particular color for me. Then I want you to apply it to this element or control or whatever. So basically, I'm going to put this code here and I'm going to explain what it does. So here, I'm going to create I know I said a pack of crayons. So app colors is my pack of crayons. So inside this pack, I created, and this is an object, right? So it's just like a container. Inside this container, I have different colors. I named them, then I provided the value of the colors. So I have a primary black color, which is very dark black. I have a light black color. So this is the code for the light black. One good thing, if you place your cursor in front of them, let me see if that works. Okay, it doesn't. But you can
sorry,
Yes.
Ibrahim.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if it's possible to increase the font of the text in the
Okay.
formula.
Absolutely. Let me try to zoom up my screen. Sorry. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. So now we can see this. So we have a primary black, then the color code specified in front of it, light black, the text ash, the background ash color, green and white. This is just normal white. So I have this and I can now reference these colors by saying app colors, then put dot. Dot, when I put dot, then that means that I'm saying inside this my pack of crayons, dot. The dot means which of the colors do I want. And I can say app color dot primary black, that will give me this value. App colors dot light black, that will give me this value, and so on, for the rest. So that's how that functions. So basically this creates uniformity in the app theming so that you have the same colors which you're using, and it's easy to maintain. You don't have to be rewriting the color codes every point in time. So now, this is our app. This is our first screen. Then we can get into the interesting part. So on this screen now, I'm going to delete this. So we start from scratch. So on this screen, I'm going to add a container. It is going to be a responsive container. I spoke about this last week. Okay, sorry, it's container. So I spoke about this last week. We have three types of containers. a horizontal one, that means it flows to the side. Or when you have the horizontal container, it arranges all items within it to the side. A vertical, the other way around, up to down. And we have the normal container with just no arrangement at all. So I'll select this. So now I'm going to move ahead and centralize this to the top left. Yeah. So I'm going to make sure this stretches across the screen. So the width, I'll make it parent.width. So that means the size of the whole screen. So for the height, I'll make it parent.height, which also means the same thing. Is the height of the whole screen, so that my container stretches across the whole screen now. So now once I have this, this is a vertical container. So anything I add within this container is going to be arranged one over the other on top of each other, right? So I'm going to, within this container now, if I were to bring up my my Figma design for it. Okay, sorry, that's not it. So if I were to bring up my Figma design right here, I would see that we have a bar at the top. We have this middle section where we have ready to satisfy your cravings and whatnot. So I'm going to take this out and I'm going to get right into it. So now I'm going to add another container within this container. Insert a container. I'll actually be inserting 3 containers, one for the header. So a horizontal container. Yeah. At the moment, it's spanning across the whole container because of a attribute called flexible height. So I'm going to switch this off. Then I'm going to give it a height of 75. So we have that. So I'm going to copy this now, copy it, click on the main container. Then I'll paste in it. I'll paste it again. So you can see we have 2 now. This is the first one. This is the second one. Then I am going to click on the main container and paste again. So we have one for the header, one for the main body, and one for the footer. Now I'm going to click on this middle one, which is for the main body, which is supposed to take most of the space, and switch on the flexible height property. So we can see this is the header part, this is the main body, and this is the footer. So now in this header part, I'm going to go ahead and add 2 controls. So sorry, I'm going to change this back to vertical. So items I add in it are stacked one over the other. So I'm going to insert a text label in it. Yep. So now this text label, I'm going to change the height to 27. So this actually the part where you get to just play around with it and see what works for you. I'm going to change the height to 27. I'm going to click on this. I'll duplicate it. So now you can see that you actually have text labels here. Text labels actually just show text that you type in them. So, but you can see we cannot see the text, and that's because the color is what? The color is black, the color of the font. So I'll click on color here, then I'll change it. Then now I get to use my pack of crayons. I say app colors dot dot white. Yeah, and we see that. So now the next thing I want to do is I want them to kind of like be aligned to the center of this container that they are in. You see they are like sticking to the top, and I want them to be aligned to the right, so they are kind of at this other edge. So I'm going to click on the main container. Then we have this automatic alignment buttons. So I'll use this to kind of align it to the middle. Then I'll come down to the horizontal alignments and align it to the right side of the box. Yeah, awesome. So now I'm going to click on both of them. Then I'm going to give them I'm going to make them quite longer. So I'll go to the width and change this to 250. Not so much. Let me say 200. Yes. So now on this first one, I want to show the day of the week. So now I'm going to come here and I'm going to add a particular code. I'm going to call a function called today. So I'll go on the text property. Then I'm going to add this code. So basically, let me explain what this does. So this is today. I'm calling the today function, right? And today function returns today's date. You can see this, it returns today's day, but I don't need all this. I only need the day, the actual day, which is Saturday. So in order to do this, I'm using a text formatting that we have in Power Apps. So I'm using this DDDD. So when I add 4Ds like this, it selects it gives me the actual day value of the date. So you can always play with this folder. Let me see if I do something like DDDD you can see it gives me the month value, which is 11, which is November. If I were to do MMM, gives me the short value of November. So this you can play around with this, So this is just a means of formatting the today function to actually get the date, but in a specific way, So basically, I'm going to get the day, which is Saturday, up here. Then I'm going to go ahead and get in this other one that we have down here. I'm going to go ahead and put the actual date in there, so we actually see more of that date formatting. So I'll go to the text property, click on the label, go to the text property. Take note, you are putting the whatever you want to display in the text property. So yeah, I'm going to put in this code. So basically, we are still referencing today, but now we are formatting the value, the data being returned by today in a different manner. So I'm saying give me the day, the value of the day, but this is just DD. DD is going to give you the date, the number of the date, which is 16. So I'm using 4ems. 4ems, if I were to use 3ems, it's going to give me a short version of November. You see, it gives us a short version of November. But using 4ems gives us the full something. So, and I'm using YYYY, which is going to give us 2024. If I were to shorten this to 2y, gives us 24. So basically, it's just formatting the value we have. Yeah. So now, basically, that is this that for the 2 items up here. So I'm just going to go ahead and style them a little bit further, to make it look even better. So I'm going to reduce the font of these. I know we are tight on time, but I'm just going to make very quick adjustments. Yes. Then I'm going to change the color to color dots. So I'm going to take text hash, and that gives us that, that hue we have right there. So now I'm going to move on to the middle. Sorry, we have one more thing here. So I'm going to add insert an image control. Okay, I think I put it in the wrong place. So I'm going to make sure I'm just on the screen. Make sure you have the screen selected. Insert your image control, and I'm going to make this 60 by 60. I'm going to make it very round. Let's see, 25. I'm going to come down to the border radius property, change this to 25. Okay. So I think I'll make that 30. Yeah, give it a green border. So come down to the border color. So I'm going to add colors, the green. Yeah. So I'm going to I'm going to come down here to radius, to border, and make the border, visible. Give it a border of 2. So this here determines the size of the border. Okay. So now I'm going to give it a border of 4. Oh, that is like a little bit too much. So I'll just position this here, reduce the border a little bit. So yes, so we have that. Now, what image do I want? I want this to show the image of whoever is logged in. So I'm going to use a function called user. So user gives us very little information about the current logged in user, but it is an easy way to easily get. So basically, from user function, you can get the image of the current logged in user, the email of the current logged in user, enter object ID, or the full name. So all I need is the image for this particular functionality. So we have that now, and we have our date at the site. So I'm going to move on to the main container here. I will need to have 3 containers within this. So I'm going to add a vertical container. So I'm going to copy this vertical container and paste it 2 more times into the main container. paste it again. Yeah, so we have 3 containers now within the our main container, right? So in here, I'm going to have, so now I want to kind of functionality in which, kind of experience in which I'm going to add some labels here, but I want them to be positioned in the center right here, right? So I'm going to add 2 labels in there. Okay, I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to click on the, okay, let me add this first, then I'm going to add another one, copy it, then add another one. Okay, so that we can see what we are working with, I'm going to click on both of them, then change the text color to white, first of all. So let's go into our Korean box, have colors dot white. Okay, so we can see that. So now the next thing I want to do now is I'm going to click on the main container. I want to position this right here in the middle. Click on the main container, come here to alignment in properties. Then I'm going to align it to the middle first. That takes it down to the middle. But I also want it to be like centralized. So I'll click on this. Awesome. So now next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on both of them. Then I'm going to increase the width. I want it to be a little bit wider. So yeah, I'm going to set the width based on a formula. So I want them to be 80% of the total width of the container. So I'm going to click on this width. I'm going to say 80%, not very straightforward. You don't need to do math. Just say 80% times the total width of the container in which they are in. So I'm going to use this times parent.width. Yeah, and that spaces it out for us evenly. So the first one is to actually show this text out. So you're supposed to show this text saying ready to satisfy your cravings. Yeah, and it has a font of 25. Where is that? Yeah, so now I'm going to, you see that it is kind of cutting out. So I'm going to switch on this for property called auto height. Yeah, and that adjusts the control to show, just the way we want it to show. Now I'm going to come down to the color. Then, now I want this to be white, not green. I want this to be green, not white. Yeah, so that is that one right there. So the next label is to show this. I'm just going to get right into it. This one is 18. The font is 18. So I'm going to switch on auto white as well. And we have that right there. So now I'm going to come here for the middle section. This is where we actually have an image. So I'm going to add the image in there. So same thing we did to align this to the center. I'm going to click on the main container where the image is in. Come down to the alignment options. Align this to the middle and bring it here. Okay. So now I'm going to configure this. I want the size to be 80% of the width of the container. So for the width, I'll say just copy the width from over here. You have to work smart. So I'm going to come down to the width property, copy this, paste it here as well. Click on the image control. Make sure you always have the right thing selected when you are, applying a formula. Okay, so that is 80%. Now for the height, I'm going to set it in such a way that it will always take its width and apply it to the height as well. So I'm going to say self.width. So this ensures that the picture has the same size as its width. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and add the image, which is going to be within this image. So I'm going to click on, yeah. So I'm going to come down here, click on this these 3 ellipses we have here, click on media, then click on add media, then upload. So we also have stock images, which are kind of a lot of free pictures Microsoft have provided for us. So now I'm going to add this picture right here. Okay, so we have this Odoo and Odoos. So now I'm going to click on the image control, go down to the image property and add that image in there. Yep. So we have this, our middle container is sorted. So now we need to add the buttons that we use. So now I'm going to click on this. I'm going to add a button. Okay. So this button has a width of same thing that we did. But first, before I do that, I'm going to centralize just like we did for the other two. Now, this will also take 80% of the main space. So I'm going to come down to it, put in that formula. Yep. So now I want this to have color green. I want it to be, I want it to have a green color. So I'm going to come down to here. Okay, I'm sorry. I think, yeah, I'm going to come down here.
If you talk,
Think this.
if you talk, yes, if you talk.
Come down to. I'm going to. I'll click. I'll make sure I'm. Sorry.
máa lọ tó bá lè bá mi gbé méjì wá fún pẹ̀lú ìsáré gbé báyìí wá báyìí.
Sorry. Sorry, Mr. Fawaz. Yeah. Okay. Please go on.
Okay, thank you. So now I'll make sure I have my button selected. I'm going to click on this, come down to the fill property as this. Fill. So I'm going to give it a green color. So I'm going to say add colors dot green. Yeah. So now I'm going to give this a font size of 10. Okay. So now I'm going to copy this and paste it in there 3 times. 2 more times, sorry. So we can see something now, right? We can see that these are get kind of glued together, which we don't want. So I'm going to click on this, come down here to come. So I'm going to click on the main container, then come to the property called gap. So basically, this is what actually determines the amount of space in between elements within the container. So I'll make this 10, or let's say 15. We have quite some space. Yep. So our buttons are evenly spaced out. So I'm going to go ahead and at this point, just rename the buttons. First, I'll change the text, the color of the text within it to black. Primary black. Yep. So now I'll change the name of the text within the controls so that this says reserve a mail. So I'm changing the text property of the buttons, manage reservations, and for the last one, admin menu. Okay. So now we have our button set. We have our home page set, except for one more thing. So down here, I want to put some information, just like a footer note, right? So now I'm going to click on this, copy it, come down here, inside this container, the footer container, then paste it in there. Then I'm just going to do some alignments, come in here, centralize it to the left, then to the middle, right? I'll increase the size, the width of the container to, let's say, 300. So now that is going to contain some kind of footer notes, which I'm going to paste in here. So when you're pasting text, when you're adding text, like just text, you have to ensure that you put them within 2 double quotes. That's what how will I put it? That's what Power Apps uses to recognize information as text when you put it within 2 double quotes. If you don't put it within 2 double quotes, you are going to get an error because Power Apps will be unable to actually identify the information that you're supplying. So that's the essence of the double quotes. So now just for some aesthetics, I'm going to add some rectangle to the page so that there's kind of like a break before the footer. I'm going to give this just a height of 2. Sorry, cut it. I'll make sure I add it within our container, the main container. So I'm going to give it a height of 2. And I'm going to make sure that it extends across the whole screen. So I'm going to click on this. So now I'm going to click on that container. Okay. Then I'm going to place it in between the main container and this footer container. So you see where it is. I'll click on this. I'll click on reorder, then move up. You see we have different options. Move to the top will bring it to the top over here. But I just want to move it up by 1 step. So move up. And we have that. Let me click out so we can see that. But it has a hideous blue. I'm going to change that to, that's a hideous blue color. I'm going to change that to, kind of something more pleasant to the eye. So let me say light black. So we have that now. So we have our home page all set up. So now next thing to do is I'm going to name this page. It's always good to name your page, or in fact name all items within your application for easy reference. Or due to time constraints, I will be unable to name every single item. So I'll name the page. I'm going to name this home screen. So that is for the home screen. Now I'm going to close the screen and add another one called the admin screen. So this is, yeah. So I'm going to name this admin screen. Okay. So now, when I click, before we move on to the admin screen, so one more thing we need to do here is some sort of role configuration so that we can see we have 3 options: reserve email, manage reservations, and admin menu. This ideally should only be clickable by admins, right? So I'm going to put a little formula on this button right here to restrict it from non-admins. So I'll click on the button, go to this property called display mode, click on this. So at the moment we can see this, we have 3 different kind of display modes which have different significance or different behavior patterns. So if it is disabled, you can see that I cannot click on that button. It's disabled. If it is edit, then it's clickable. Then we have view. So if it's view, we can see it is still looking active, but it is not active. You cannot actually act on it. So that is for that. So now what I want to do is I want to make this disabled if you are not an admin. So I'm going to click on the display mode option here. So I'm going to come into the formula bar. Then now we get to see the importance of this particular information that we collected when we are starting the app. This current user role information. So basically, this is collecting information from the role configuration database in which your role is actually being stated. So this is me, Olauto Ibrahim. I have a role of admin. So now I'm going to come back into my app, right? Click on this admin menu button, go to my display mode property. Then in here, I would say if, yeah, we are going to call a function called if. I'm going to cut this out for now. So if is just like our everyday if, I'm saying if this, then do this for me. So I'm going to say if I'm an admin. So how do I recognize if I'm an admin? I'll say if current user, I'll call that variable. So, but inside that variable now we have all sorts of stuff. We have this, we have the user, we have the role, we have the order limit, we have the department. Yeah. So basically, I will say if current user role. In fact, I should do some cleanup here, but let's just move ahead. So if current user role, which contains a whole lot of information, so which do I need there? I'll say if current user role dot role. I'm saying inside current user role, give me the role. Yeah, that's what I need. So if current user role dot role, so is equal to what? Admin. Yeah, I'm going to specify this. So I'm saying if it is equal to admin, right? Make it editable. So the display mode should be edit. But if not, make it view. Okay, let's see what this is saying. Okay, sorry. So the role column is a choice column. So you need to specify the value. So basically, this is just this is a syntax you just need to get used to. So when you're working with SharePoint and you're working with choice columns, when you want to specify a role, a choice column, after stating the name of the column, you have to add this. You have to specify this value object property. So basically, this is the only way you can reference a choice column in Power Apps, a choice column coming from SharePoint. So basically, now if I were to highlight this, now we can see what current user role dot role value is equal to what admin. So this is equal to admin, and that is why at the moment this button is clickable for me. In order to do a quick test for us so that we can see how that works, I'm going to come in here, change my role to staff. Yep. So I'll get back to my app, run my app on start again. So basically, I'm like collecting the information back from the database. Okay, let me refresh my database. Okay, so I'll run my onStart. Okay, it takes a bit of a moment because I just ran one, so it's taking some time. Okay. Okay, yeah. So you might come across this from time to time where if you just run a function, it may take a little while. It's just kind of before you can run it again. So now I'm going to just to kind of trick the system. So now I'm going to try to run it again. Okay, let's just give it a bit of time. We'll come back and test that. So basically, let me do a refresh here. Yeah, let's give it a bit of time. So now, we've set that up, and now I'm going to come down to my admin screen. So basically, let us start setting up the admin screen for the menu. So basically, the first thing we are going to be doing now is that before our users can actually, select items on the menu to, order items, you need to have a menu place first, because that's the only way I can actually see available items which I can actually order. So here we are going to start setting up that admin menu page. So now I'm going to come down here. So now I'm going to give the screen that background color, a black background color. So I'm going to say app colors dot primary black. So now on this background, I'm going to add a container. So I'm going to add a vertical container. So a container that is stacked one above the other. So yeah, so now I'm going to position this at the top of the page. So I'll make sure it's starting from the edge. Yeah. So now I'm going to stretch it across the whole screen. Come down here to the width property, say parent.width. Also for the height, I'll specify parent.height as well. Okay. So now inside this vertical container, now I'm going to add two containers. One for the header, and let us show us what we are trying to achieve so that we can have an idea. So here we have this. So we are trying to achieve this, right? So we have one for the header here, and we have one for the main body. So now I'm going to add two containers in here. Select the container, the main container, then add I'll add a horizontal container first. Okay, so now that is stretching across the whole screen, which I don't want. So I'm going to click on the container I just added and switch off this flexible height property. Okay, now I'm going to change the height to 70. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add the next container. Click on the main container. If not, if you have this container selected and you were to, and I pasted the container again, it's going to paste within this one, which is not what I want. I want it to be pasted within the main one. So make sure you have it selected. Then I'll paste it again. Then this time around, I'm going to switch on the flexible height property so that that can span the whole screen. Okay. So now I'm going to start styling my screen. I'll start adding the components I need. So at the top here, I need this is a horizontal container, which means anything I add in here will be stacked beside each other. But if we were to look at our Figma design, firstly, we want a kind of we want some texts which are stacked on top of each other before we now have the buttons which are stacked in next, like one after the other. You can see this. So in order to achieve that, we have to add first, we would add a vertical container within our horizontal container for this text. Then we can now arrange the buttons after we've done that. So now within this container, I'm going to add another container, which is going to be a vertical one, stacked one on top of the other. I'm going to add this. So now what I'm going to do is come down here to the minimum height property. The minimum height is 100. That's why it is kind of exceeding the height of the parent container, which is 75. So I'm going to set the minimum height to 75 as well. Okay, or 70, I think. Yeah, awesome. So now I'm going to click on the main container, then go ahead and add my buttons. I have 2 of them. I have 3 of them actually. So I'm going to add a button in there. Now, I am going to click on the main container. Then I'm going to align the button to be in the middle, and not just, yeah. So I'll click on this, then I want to make some adjustment to that button, to make it more appealing. So I'm going to give this a size of 30, a height of 30. Okay, so the font size is going to be, let me see, where is this? We have fonts. Yeah, so I'm going to make it 10. Yes. So now I'm going to copy this and paste 2 more of this. Yeah, but they are kind of glued to each other. So I'm going to click on the main container and give it a gap of 10. Yeah, so they are spaced out like that. But now one more thing I want to do now is that I want a kind of feel where the buttons are kind of placed. They are not touching the edges of the screen like that. So I'm going to click on the main container. So I will kind of want to shrink it down a little bit. So I'll click on this container right here. I'll make sure I have the main container containing the buttons and all. I'm going to click on it. Then I'm going to come down to the what's it called, to the width. So I'm going to first, I'm going to click on this. So this, we have the alignment for the container. So this says stretch, you see, container across all available space. So first of all, I'm going to, change that to center. So now I'm going to set the width to contain 80% of the available space on the screen. So I'm going to click on this and change the width property to take 80% of the available space. So we can see that. So now I'm going to click on the container in here. Then because I made some adjustment to the main container, something flipped. So I'll change it back to 70. I'll change the height back to 70. Then I'm going to go ahead and add my text labels in there. So I'm going to add the text label in here, make the color white, so that we can see the text within it. Click on color here. change it to app colors dot white. Yep. So now that we have this, I'm going to first of all, I'm going to go down to the property here. So this auto height property, I'm going to switch this on. Okay, so it takes only the space it needs to take. So now I'm going to.
Sorry, Ibrahim.
Yes.
Sorry for cutting in. I think we should start rounding up. We are at the top of the hour already.
Okay. I think sorry, I really did hope we could, do a lot more today. But considering time, we wouldn't, well, I guess we'll make a stop here this week and continue from here next week. So basically, we have our own pitch set up and we are going into the admin screen. So at this point, if there are any, doubts, any questions concerning what you've already implemented, then we can table that and sort it before, close for today.
Okay. Thank you so much, Brahim, for taking your time to walk through this with us. Thanks a lot for that. If anyone has any question, please, this is the time to put that forth. But pending why our everyone on the call would ask their questions, I just want to put this. I want to ask this. So initially, at a point where you used the user function, you said that, or you showed us that there are 4 things that we can retrieve using the user function. So the fourth one is Entra something ID. I can't remember vividly. So my question there would be: is there a scenario where we would need that ID to implement whatever use case? Have you come across that before?
You mean what's it called? The user
function. Yeah. Yes, this.
Yeah. So where I would need the ID.
Yes, from the options here there is an option for name, I think, image, and maybe email address. Then there is a 4th option for Entra object ID or something like that.
Yes. Actually, I've not actually come across any use case for, the Entra object ID, but I assume, which stand to be corrected, that it should refer to the, unique user ID of the user for which the function is being called, which can be used to, probably, query user detail from the AD or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Is there anyone with any question? Maybe based on what we've done today or something outside of that. Okay, Adiola, please go on.
Hi, good afternoon. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for this opportunity to be able to shed more light on Canvas, especially on the user interface. So please, I don't really have any question, but I want to ask a particular question concerning if there is any platform we can be able to get this particular session, maybe like to watch it again in case we've missed any of the part of the session while it was going on.
Okay, so if I would take your question, Adiola, yes, there is. We have a YouTube channel, and
Okay.
if I would ask you, are you on the Power Addict WhatsApp group?
Yeah, I'm there.
Okay, so the recording for last week's session was shared there today. So if you go through that record, that takes you to our YouTube channel. You can just subscribe to the channel.
Okay, so I'll be notified anytime.
Exactly, okay. You'll be notified.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any
other question from anybody? Okay, Sim, we don't have any other one. Thank you so much again, Ibrahim. It's this really an interesting session, and I believe that it will get even more interesting, and I don't want to say sophisticated as we go ahead, but to be frank with you, this is really looking nice already. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with the community, and we hope to have you again next week. Thanks again, everybody, for attending the session today. Remember that this is scheduled to run weekly for probably about 5 or 6 weeks, which means by God's grace, next week, Saturday, 5 p.m. Nigerian time, we'll continue with this. Do put that on your schedule for the weekends, and so that you do not miss any part of this interesting conversation. Thank you very much, everybody. We meet again next week.
All right, thank you.